Chinese missiles fail in real combat. In a shocking display that stunned both military experts and the public, Chinese-made missiles malfunctioned during live combat operations, failing to hit their intended targets and leaving soldiers scrambling for cover. The world watched as what was supposed to be a demonstration of technological prowess turned into a moment of chaos and confusion on the battlefield. Air defenses crumble under fire. As enemy forces launched coordinated attacks, Chinese-supplied air defense systems were quickly overwhelmed. The much-touted defense lines, believed to be nearly impenetrable, collapsed under pressure, exposing critical vulnerabilities and leaving Allied troops dangerously exposed. These were the headlines flashing across global news networks this week. News anchors around the world broke into regular programming to cover the unfolding disaster, with urgent headlines and live updates dominating the airwaves. In a stunning turn, Chinese military technology sold to Iran and Venezuela failed when it mattered most. These countries had invested heavily in Chinese arms, trusting in Beijing's promises of reliability and advanced engineering. The world watched as advanced attacks exposed embarrassing flaws, explosions rocked the battlefield, and armored vehicles equipped with Chinese systems were left burning and abandoned, unable to withstand the onslaught. Military analysts were caught off guard. Many had previously praised China's rapid advancements in military technology, but the real-world failures forced them to reconsider their assessments and question the true capabilities of these weapons. They had believed Beijing's claims of cutting-edge weaponry. For years, China showcased its latest missiles and defense systems in grand parades and international expos, projecting an image of unstoppable military strength. Yet, these dramatic reports showed a different story. The contrast between official propaganda and the harsh reality on the ground was impossible to ignore, raising doubts about the effectiveness of China's arms exports. Images of burning equipment and stunned soldiers filled television screens. The shock and disbelief on the faces of troops who had relied on these systems spoke volumes about the gravity of the situation. Social media exploded with questions about China's rising military power. Hashtags and viral videos spread rapidly, fueling debates and speculation about what these failures meant for the global balance of power. The shock was not limited to military circles. Diplomats and civilian leaders around the world expressed concern, realizing that the implications of these failures could reshape international alliances and defense strategies. World leaders and defense ministers demanded answers. Emergency meetings were called, and officials pressed for explanations from both Chinese representatives and their own military advisors. Videos of Chinese-built systems shutting down or missing targets went viral. The repeated footage of these failures became a symbol of the unexpected weaknesses in China's much-publicized arsenal. The stage was set for a global reckoning over China's arms industry. Experts and policymakers gathered to debate the future of international arms sales and the reliability of Chinese technology in modern warfare. It was clear. The battlefields of Iran and Venezuela had become a test China did not expect to fail. The world now waits to see how Beijing will respond to this unprecedented challenge to its reputation as a global arms supplier. The Iranian desert crackled with tension as hostile drones approached. Soldiers manned Chinese-made missile launchers, ready to defend their skies. They waited for the order, confident in their new technology. The launchers fired, trailing smoke and flame. But disaster struck. The first missile veered off course. The second fizzled out before reaching its target. Radar screens glitched, showing phantom objects. Iranian commanders shouted into radios, desperate for answers. Instead, they watched helplessly as enemy drones broke through. Panic spread throughout the base. Some soldiers tried to reboot the radar systems, others scrambled for backup plans, but the Chinese electronics refused to cooperate. The air defense network had collapsed at the worst possible moment. The aftermath was grim. Dozens of vehicles were damaged. Trust in Chinese technology, once strong, suddenly began to crack. Thousands of miles away, Venezuela faced its own nightmare. Chinese radar stations dotted the coastline, designed to detect incoming threats. But when a surprise airstrike arrived, the screens went dark. Officers slammed their fists on consoles, cursing the silence. Missiles launched in panic, but failed to lock on. Some exploded mid-air, others fell harmlessly into the sea. Venezuelan pilots radioed for help, but ground controllers could offer nothing but confusion. The proud Chinese air defense grid had been blinded. The chaos was total. Venezuelan generals barked orders but received only static. Air defense teams abandoned their posts as explosions echoed in the distance. The supposed shield had vanished in minutes. As smoke drifted over the coast, the nation's leaders realized their high-tech investment had become a liability. The sense of betrayal was deep. China's arms sales pitches are legendary. Slick brochures and polished videos showed missiles hitting targets every time, and radars tracking aircraft with perfect precision. Iranian and Venezuelan officials bought in. Billions of dollars changed hands. But under real combat conditions, promises faded into excuses. Reports detailed the failures, outdated software, faulty wiring, and glitches that Chinese trainers had never mentioned. Soldiers felt abandoned, left to fight with weapons that did not work. The gap between marketing and reality was undeniable. Defense experts began to dig deeper, highlighting the lack of transparency in China's arms deals. Many wondered how much was hype and how much was truth. For Iran and Venezuela, the lesson was bitter. Their faith in Chinese technology had been misplaced. Iranian commanders stood in silence, watching the smoking remains of what were supposed to be elite defense systems. Some swore under their breath, while others simply shook their heads. They had expected victory, but found humiliation instead. Venezuelan soldiers, felt the sting of betrayal. In the chaos, one officer was heard yelling, "We trusted Beijing, they promised us power." The mood in both countries shifted from confidence to suspicion. Rumors spread quickly through the ranks and military morale plummeted. Some units refused to use their Chinese gear, fearing more failures. Others went back to older, less advanced systems that had never let them down. It was a painful admission. The new was not always better. Across both countries, disappointment turned to anger, and calls for accountability grew louder. World media really pounced on the story. Headlines across Europe and America started questioning China's rise as a military superpower. Defense analysts appeared on television, dissecting every detail of the failures. Some even called it the biggest embarrassment for Beijing in years. Specialists pointed out technical flaws, noting that Chinese systems often lag behind Western or Russian technology. Others highlighted the risks of buying from a supplier more concerned with sales than with quality. The debate just raged on social platforms and in policy circles. China's rivals, they seized the moment, using the incidents to warn potential buyers about cheap imitations and unproven systems. Even traditional Chinese allies began to question their own procurement decisions. The message was, honestly, pretty clear. China's reputation as a reliable arms supplier was under serious threat. China's official response was, swift and definitely defensive. Within hours of the first report surfacing, government officials were already in front of cameras, determined to shape the story before it could spiral out of control. The tone was firm, almost combative, as they tried to reassure both domestic and international audiences that everything was under control. Spokespersons quickly pointed fingers, blaming operator error and improper maintenance for the failures. They emphasized that the responsibility lay with the foreign crews using the equipment, not with the manufacturers or the technology itself. They insisted the equipment was sound, shifting the focus to the users. According to them, the technology had passed all required tests and had a proven track record. If something went wrong, it was because the buyers hadn't followed instructions or failed to maintain the systems properly. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, teams of engineers were dispatched to upgrade and repair the broken systems. These technical squads worked around the clock, sometimes in challenging conditions, to get things running again and to reassure clients that China stood by its products. Chinese state media launched a campaign to control the narrative, with stories highlighting successful tests back home. News anchors showcased footage of flawless military exercises, emphasizing the reliability and advanced features of Chinese hardware. Interviews with loyal customers painted a picture of reliability and power. Carefully selected testimonials from satisfied clients were broadcast, all praising the performance and support they received from Chinese companies. The aim was clear: protect the brand at any cost. Every move, every statement was calculated to defend China's reputation as a global arms supplier and to reassure future buyers that they could trust Chinese technology. Beijing also promised quick fixes, new software updates, technical teams, and more training sessions were offered to Iran and Venezuela. The message was that China was responsive and committed to solving any issues, no matter how complex or embarrassing. But honestly, the damage was done. The images of broken equipment and frustrated clients had already spread, raising doubts that couldn't be erased overnight. Many saw these moves as desperate attempts to save face. International analysts and rival suppliers openly questioned the credibility of China's explanations, suggesting that the problems ran deeper than just user error. The world watched closely, skeptical of Beijing's promises and, eager for real answers. As the story unfolded, it became clear that China's reputation and its ambitions as a global arms powerhouse were very much on the line. The shockwaves reached far beyond Tehran and Caracas. Countries in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East had spent billions on Chinese weapons. Now, their generals held emergency meetings, reviewing contracts and contingency plans. Doubt crept into every conversation. Some governments pressed Beijing for assurances, demanding better warranties and more transparency. Others quietly opened talks with rival suppliers from Russia, Europe, or the US. The market for Chinese arms, once booming, faced sudden uncertainty. Military planners adjusted their strategies. Some moved to diversify their arsenals, adding non-Chinese systems as backup. The question on everyone's mind was simple. If China's weapons failed in Iran and Venezuela, could they trust them to defend their own borders? A silent exodus began, as buyers searched for more reliable partners. The failures in Iran and Venezuela really marked a turning point for China's arms industry. These incidents weren't just isolated technical glitches, they were public setbacks that played out on the world stage, watched closely by both allies and competitors. The images of malfunctioning equipment and frustrated soldiers sent shockwaves through the international defense community, raising serious questions about the reliability of Chinese-made weapons. China's ambition to rule the global arms market suffered a serious blow. Once, Beijing's defense industry was seen as a rising force, offering affordable alternatives to Western and Russian arms. But now, the confidence that once fueled its rapid expansion has been shaken, and the world is watching to see how China will respond. Trust, which was once earned through flashy demonstrations and low prices, was now damaged by the harsh light of real battle. Buyers who once flocked to Chinese expos are now second-guessing their decisions, wondering if the savings are worth the risk of failure when it matters most. Beijing faces a tough road ahead. The leadership knows that regaining lost ground will require more than just promises and public relations campaigns. It will take real, tangible improvements in quality and reliability. Fixing technical flaws is only part of the challenge. China must also overhaul its approach to quality control, invest in research and development, and rebuild its reputation from the ground up. This is a long-term process that demands patience and persistence. Winning back confidence from foreign buyers may take years, or, honestly, might never happen at all. Some nations may never fully trust Chinese arms again, no matter how many upgrades or guarantees are offered. The world has seen the limits of Chinese military technology, and memories of chaos and disappointment just won't fade easily. These failures have become cautionary tales, shared among military planners and defense analysts worldwide. For Iran and Venezuela, the lesson is clear: promises are not enough. They now know that real-world performance is what truly matters, not just marketing brochures or staged demonstrations. Real security demands real performance. Only weapons that prove themselves under fire can earn the trust of those who depend on them for national defense. For China, the future of its arms industry hangs in the balance. The choices made now, whether to innovate, reform, or double down on old strategies, will determine its fate for years to come. Will it learn and improve, or will rivals claim the ground it has lost? One thing is certain: the competition is fierce, and the global arms market is unforgiving to those who stumble. After these failures, no one will look at Beijing's defense industry the same way again. The world is waiting to see if China can rise from this crossroads, or if its ambitions will be permanently derailed.